Live.
Wait, what do we? Good evening, everyone. We are now live. Like to just announce that we have just come out of non-public, and we will start by Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion. I would move to seal the records from the non-public meeting until such time as a majority of the board feels it is wise and prudent to unseal them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Our next item is, we're going to actually skip a little bit here since we do have some people in the audience. I'd like to help get them out since we're a little late getting up here. I would like to welcome Senator Tom Sherman.
Is this live?
Yes.
Should be.
Hi, I'm mainly here to introduce myself. I've been to almost every town. You know, there are 11 towns in the district. In District 24, it's kind of a odd shape, but it does include Southampton and Kensington. And so what I've been trying to do is get out to all the select boards and see what their concerns are, see if I can answer any specific questions, or if I can't, I can take it back and get you an answer. I wanted to let you know that being available to you if you have an issue, whether it's DOT, DES, any of the state agencies, and being able to sort of be a go-between. I've been working very closely with Hampton, Rye, Newcastle. They all have issues right now, and so trying to help them sort of make sure that they're getting the service they need from the state. And then also being sure, I left you all my cards with my cell. As a physician, I'm used to being on call 24/7, and I actually don't mind getting called if an issue comes up and you're just not getting the service you need pretty much any time. On the Senate side, a lot of the focus that we've been working on right now is addressing three major crises. And Newton, and I know you all have had some exposure to these, but you haven't had quite the exposure of Seabrook and Hampton. But mental health crisis right now, substance use, and the third major crisis is in DCYF, which is how we handle children who are in crisis. And just to give you a little perspective on DCYF, right now we have so few caseworkers in the state that our average load per caseworker is 45 children. The national standard, the worst that you're supposed to be, is 15. So we're 3 times the national worst. On the substance use, we are now number 3 in the country for opioid-related deaths, and helping the governor roll out the plan of hub and spoke. I don't know if you've heard about it, but the nearest hub to you is Dover, which I'm not sure is a big help. So one of my goals is to make sure the spokes, which means the services, are brought down to all of the towns in my district, and we're working very closely with Seabrook and Hampton to get them some services for recovery and treatment. On the mental health, on the New Hampshire side, I know you border Massachusetts, but on the New Hampshire side, your nearest hospital is Exeter, which is my hospital. I'm a gastroenterologist at Exeter. And making sure that our ER, which typically will hold anywhere from 4 to 8 people in the ER in mental health crisis, because there's no beds in the state, we're addressing that with a bill called SB 11, which is being fast-tracked through, so that if somebody in Newton has depression, has suicidal ideation, or has schizophrenia and is having a psychotic break, right now what happens if they stay in the state is they go to Exeter Hospital and they will sit there until a bed's ready, and that can be up to a month. So, and the treatment is minimal. That's true across the state. It's not unique to Exeter. I was out in Keene and they had 4 people there. They have a little side unit just for this, and it was full. And when it fills, the next patient is going to be sitting in the hallway. So these are being addressed in a very aggressive way, completely bipartisan, which is great. My bill, which is on the ER boarding, came out of the Senate 24-0. So this is not a partisan issue. The governor is behind it. But that's the immediate focus, is to shift to address these three major crises. One of the other major efforts that we're working on in the Senate is to return money to the towns so that you can mitigate property taxes. You may remember, if you lived here at the time, in 2010, 2011, two major downshifts of costs were put on the towns and municipalities. One was what's called cost sharing, and the other one is the pensions. So municipal pensions were originally a 30% state government burden, and they put that entire 30% back on the towns. When I was campaigning and I was down in Newton, one of the big issues that I heard was the property tax load on residents here, and especially the elderly on fixed incomes, and being able to actually stay in town because it's just too expensive. So this will hopefully return, if it goes through, if the governor signs, if we can work out the budget in a way that allows the governor to sign this, then returning money back to the towns that they used to have would hopefully allow you to mitigate some of your costs and cut property taxes. That's sort of a big overview of the focus. We've just gone through crossover, which means that all the Senate bills have now gone to the House. All the House bills have come to the Senate. Certainly, if you look through the roster, I see you have SB 79 on your agenda for tonight. If you look through the roster and you have one that's a concern, especially on the House side, since that's coming to the Senate, please give me a call. I also I'm chair of Health and Human Services. I'm vice chair of Election Law and Municipal Affairs. So we see many of the bills that affect you directly, and work very closely with the Municipal Association. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
How'd you vote on SB 79?
Along with virtually everyone, I voted for it, and I can explain why. The concern, some towns were worried about the reporting burden of it, but many towns already do this. And they already keep that inventory, so the reporting is not a heavy lift. But what's really important about it is being able to make sure that we have the statewide resources to handle the solid waste. That is, as you know, with the shift in China's boycott, I was at the Hampton Board of Selectmen, and they had a whole presentation, which I just happened to be there when they gave it. It was on recycling. It was an amazing presentation. But the burden of solid waste is going to go up exponentially unless we address it as a state. So we just don't know what we're dealing with without that reporting. So there were some towns that pushed back, but it is once a year, and many towns are already doing this. So
We just see it as a potential issue for us because we have a very small transfer station. We're a small town. We don't have a scale.
right,
Which means we can't weigh stuff that comes in. We can tell you the solid waste that goes out. We can tell you the bulk waste that goes out. We can tell you the commingled recyclables, for example, that goes
Right.
out. But things like the aluminum cans that come in, they go out via the Boy Scouts. We don't have that information. Composting, no way to weigh that. Swap pile, metal pile. So there are,
I hear you, and I think that if there are, it's going over to the House now, and
yes,
your state rep is here.
which
I'd be
is
happy
why
to-
we're discussing
Right.
this tonight.
So I'd be happy to work with him if need be, but putting in exceptions for that kind of, you never really think of all the possible contingencies. And I believe the the municipal association, the New Hampshire
Oh,
Municipal.
yes, I've already brought this to them, too.
Right. So, but I believe they were not committal on this bill. And usually what that means is they've got a split vote in their constituency. So, but what I can do is if it goes to the House and it's tweaked, then it comes back to the Senate for concurrence. These are really common sense issues you bring up. And I can lead the charge on defending any amendments that they put in the House bill, in the House version. And when it comes back to the Senate, then I can explain why those went through and we can concur. But the goal is not to put a huge burden. There's no, the data is not being used to punish towns for however they do it. It's more to get the data.
We do some reporting now, obviously.
Right.
We do an annual report. It's just not to this extent.
Right.
So this isn't estimates. This is, we want your weight of your recyclables, we want your weight of your compost, we want,
But
the
if
weight,
you
what
don't-
came in, what,
right.
in order to know that there's a 40% reduction of what comes in versus what goes out. Without a scale, you can't do that.
Right, and then you start talking about unfunded mandates. And
Exactly.
so that is not the intent.
Okay.
So I think that those kind of contingencies, and in the House, they have a little more ability, and I'm not putting the whole burden on the House, but in the House, they do have the ability to take a bill, put it into subcommittee, and really look at it in depth. I was in the House for 4 years, and I kind of missed that ability. But if they come back and it reflects your concerns here, I will argue forcefully for that. I can't guarantee it, but I have a feeling if those kind of issues, if you're having them with the size of Newton, there are a lot of smaller towns in the state. And
Yes,
so
but do they have their own transfer station is,
Right. I'm sure there are smaller towns with transfer stations. So the goal is not to punish, but to get as much information as we can for planning.
we will be keeping an eye out.
Please, and keep me posted. I'm happy to help any way I can.
How about Senate Bill 67, the
Refresh my memory.
domiciliary requirement?
I'm sorry, what?
So the domicile requirement for registering to vote, I'm going to assume you voted to remove that requirement.
Yeah, but it didn't remove the requirement. It gave a specific exemption, and being a doctor, it affects residents and interns, it affects students, and it affects temporary employees for businesses. So if you're assigned to New Hampshire, this would allow you, what it really does is it allows you to vote without having a period of time after you vote to have to register your car. That's what the current bill does. I mean, that's what the current statute that hasn't actually gone into effect yet, but it will do. So the point of this one is to take away that link between registering your car. So if I'm a resident at Dartmouth and I'm doing my training, I basically live here for 3 years. I shop here, my income is coming from here in every way. But if I'm driving my parents' car, or if I'm driving a car that's registered to me, frankly, as a resident, I was in Missouri. I never changed my license plates or my driver's license. I just never had time. But I could vote there. And that's what this does. It gives that, the person who's here for a period of time, who's in every other way a part of the community and contributing to the community, if they want to vote in New Hampshire, they can. And that was, by the way, they could do that all the way up until this bill went through that tied drivers,
Right.
that redefined it.
I think for me and the people I talk to in town, it's like, it's kind of like, well, I want to be in the community to vote, but you know what? I don't want to pay for my registration. I don't want to change my license. I'll keep my Massachusetts license, my Massachusetts registration, and I'm going to vote here anyway. that's the way we see it.
Yeah, and I know people
you're
felt that
You're
way.
in Newton, New Hampshire, we have a lot of, like cottages on the lake, of people. So essentially what you're saying is it's all right for those people if they live in Chelmsford, Mass. They can come up here and vote in the presidential primary.
No, actually, that's not what it's saying. So it's a very specific exception for students.
But, so that's what you're saying, is the new bill specifies students?
Yeah, there's 3. I'm trying to remember the exact wording. I can get you that, but it's students, temporary, assigned workers, there was one other.
Yeah.
So it does have, it's more specific than that. The goal was, actually, I sat down with Secretary of State Gardner, and we were talking about this. And one of the concerns that he had and I had was that people who have a lake house, they might say, well, I live in California, but my vote means a lot more in New Hampshire, so I'm going to fly in for the vote.
Right.
And that's not the intent of the bill. That's not what it's trying to do. All it's doing is decoupling for students and other people who are here for a period of time, which may be years, making it possible for them to vote
Yeah.
here.
Me personally, if I'm a student and I'm going to be here for a period of time, many years, I'm going to register my car up here. I mean, it's like, you need to be part of,
Yeah.
you need to pay in, I think is what it is, but we
And
disagree.
a lot of people feel that
Yeah,
way.
we disagree, so.
Right.
Yeah. And the only other thing I'll throw out there, I think the board might back me up on this one, and Representative Melvin is here, me talk about this all the time, and I'm probably preaching to the choir, but we lucked out a few weeks ago with town meeting. We had a nice day.
Oh,
But-
that's actually
but
going
you guys-
somewhere.
That,
But, yeah, you guys have to help us out, man. If we have another blizzard, we need
no,
some
and
local-
that was a bill that I firmly supported.
Okay, good.
And, I'm vice chair of municipal affairs and election law and that was one that went through the committee without much of a blip. There was we have to watch it as it goes to the House and make sure that it doesn't get altered significantly.
Yeah, it was-
I'm sure Charlie will
Right.
vote for us with that one and help us out. Get
And that
through.
was the compromise was really beautifully done between the municipal association, the governor's office, the Secretary of State's office. And the Secretary of State was on the other side of this issue for a while.
Right.
He wanted to have central control, and I think that's inappropriate in a municipal election. So specific compromises were made, but none of them took away your power to really make that final determination here.
That's good news.
And I did see that it was a unanimous vote to recommend ought to pass,
Yeah,
so that was good.
yeah.
To echo Selectman Beryl's comment regarding the voter registration in the automobile. Remember, those people that are living here for 3 years are using our local roads paid for
Yeah.
by us, the taxpayer.
Right.
They're not even bothered, they don't even want to have to contribute the cost of registration. I mean, that is a slap in the face of everybody that has lived here for a long time and have supported all these things. So you're telling young people, come to New Hampshire, go to college, you can vote here, but we know you're not really concerned. I mean, that's an insult to the people of New Hampshire.
I hear you, and I'm sure there are going to be some things, across the district, I hear the exact opposite. So my goal is to really be as careful as I am to listen to everything people have to say, and I understand that.
Yeah, my disappointment with that one, and this is more of a sort of high-level soapbox thing, is that was a party line vote, correct? Senate Bill 67?
yeah.
Every Democrat voted one way, every Republican voted the other way?
Yeah, I think as it
Yeah,
cleared the
I
House.
think I'm correct. So, again, soapbox, it'd be nice once in a while, I don't even care what the vote is, but if we saw, a few of the Republicans voting with the
Yeah.
Democrats and vice versa, that might make me think that there was actually consideration to what the constituents were feeling, and not that I've got to get in line with my party here. So that's just a soapbox thing, but.
Right, and I would say that goes both ways. You know, when, 2 years ago, when Democrats weren't in the majority, it was the exact opposite on bills that I care very deeply about. What I will say is that the vast majority, if you look at that day, for example, the vast majority of the bills were either unanimous or very strongly nonpartisan. And so, understanding that there are going to be votes that are along party lines, the vast majority aren't. And some really tough issues, like these 3 crises that I was talking about, those are ones. My bill started out with only Senator Bradley on my side. And because we were able to work together on the bill, come to some compromise, bring in things that were the concerns on the Republican side, we were able to get a 24-0 vote out of the Senate for that same bill. So that kind of work is being done. There are some things that are just intensely partisan, and it's unfortunate, and I understand. But the vast majority of the work we're doing there, which is different from Washington, D.C., is bipartisan. And I was sitting with Senator Bradley up until 5:30 in committee, and we were going through our committee hearings. We had 4.5 hours of committee hearings, and we were going through the bills together. He's the senior Republican, I'm chair, and everything was collegial, it was collaborative, and coming out with some really strong compromise language on some very tough issues. So what I can promise is that I will always listen, and I will take into account your concerns, and please don't stop sharing them, because I try to work as independently as I possibly can, and on some of these issues, I know you'll sway my vote with a strong argument. So that's why I don't stop listening, because I keep learning.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments for Senator Sherman?
I'd just like to say thank you for coming tonight, and also, I say this to somebody in your position all the time, you know, everybody should be made aware. What's your salary?
$100 a year.
$100. So everybody, we should shout that from the rooftops. So these folks don't do this job for the money. They do this job because they want to make a difference. So we appreciate anybody, you know, throwing their hat into the ring.
Well, thank you for saying that. The most important thing is that I do want to make a difference. I want to, my whole focus is on the residents of New Hampshire. And one last thing is, I really mean it when if I'm going to try to make it to your meetings just to check in at least 2 to 3 times a year. But if you want me here, just call, and I'll come down. It's not a big deal to me, and that's why I'm here.
Thank
You know, the pay may not be great, but it's my responsibility to show up, so.
You do get a one of those easy passes, right?
Yeah,
No, they
which
don't.
going through on 93, you need it, so, thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
All right, so
Probably fire department, the fire rescue station.
Charlie, are you leaving? Did you want to speak to SB 79 since it's going to the House? I mean, it's... Okay.
It has to go to committee. Committee can rewrite it, and then it would go to the floor.
All right, I was just curious if he had any comments about it, but if you don't, that's okay.
Find out where it's gone and sort of try to share what you've said preemptively with the House.
All right, thank you.
I think if we push this out 2 weeks, would we still be,
No, you're probably looking at about a month.
so if we talked about this once, you've had a little, Charlie, more time to find out about this in 2 weeks, we'd still be okay, right?
What I can do is if you'll get in touch with my office and let me know who to call, I'll find out. I'll be in contact tomorrow. I'll find out where it is, where it's going, and get back to you.
Either that, or we can just ask Charlie, because you'll get it in the calendar.
Yeah.
And it,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be getting our 2 reps involved.
Yeah.
It's just a quick question. If you could put into like a short paragraph or bulleted the specific concerns that Newton has with
I
the
can
bill.
forward an email to you, how's that?
Perfect. And.
I will get your email address
yeah.
from our secretary.
It's actually on the card, so
Okay,
you can
yep,
just
so
shoot
I
it
have
off
the
to
card.
me, and that way I'll be able to represent you verbatim rather than,
Absolutely, I will
That'd be
send that
awesome.
off.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, Tom.
So you eliminated that from the agenda. So.
Well, we did discuss it. All right, our next item, fire department.
Can we do fire rescue station?
Fire rescue station.
It's the update on the agenda, right?
Yes, yes.
Good evening, Board. Mike Pavero, Construction Manager for the new fire station. I'm here tonight to give you some numbers on the completion of the sprinkler system, which we don't have to go through why we got here. We are just here and need to deal with it. It's taken a while because the engineer and architect have done their due diligence, looking at the drawings. The subcontractors have been in touch with them. And to put the water supply, the diesel generator, and the other associated work that it's gonna take to do this, we're gonna be in the ballpark of about $226,000.
So there's a little sticker shock there. So $226,000, and that's a round figure, obviously.
It's gonna be a pretty solid number. We, and I say we, the group of subs and engineers are looking at one more option. We've been looking at that for about a week now. It doesn't look like that's gonna pan out to be much difference in number completion, which is a completely pre-made pump house, all assembled. But that comes with transportation issues, setting costs, stuff of that nature. So we're still compiling it, but right now it doesn't look like it's, an awful lot difference in number. But it may, and if it comes out even $3,000 cheaper, it will be the route we go.
Yeah, right. What's, in terms of the bond, where are we?
You are negative, you will be negative probably 60, close to $70,000.
Yeah.
This is where we were end of February,
Yeah.
and there's been a few more checks since then.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
You're at
aware.
about $203,000 right now,
Yeah.
but that's a misleading number.
Right.
Did we ever find out what the interest was?
I think it's on the bottom of that. If you've got that spreadsheet from Kim, it should be on the bottom of that Excel sheet. Interest right now balance is $4,221.59.
So it helps a little. What is, do we know the rental, 8 Merrimack Road rental account balance?
What we have available is about 36,000. And anything we're taking in this year, we can't touch till next year.
Yeah, right. Anybody else?
Well, let me throw in my 2 cents. We've talked this through. We knew there was gonna be a potential. Fingers crossed we wouldn't get to this, but here we are. Your options are 0. The State Fire Marshal was very clear. That gets done and completed on his calendar date, or unpleasant things will happen. So it's gotta be built, it's gotta be put in, it's gotta be compliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a case of, yeah, I like the way you put it, our options are zero, because it's not like we're going to have to do it.
Yep.
And we're going to have to find a way to pay for the remainder. The two options I just listed seem to come to mind as the best routes. That gets us most of the way there, I think, my rough math. But we're going to have to.
Gets us half of the way there.
Half?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gets us half of the way there, so we're going to have to find the rest of it somewhere else. So that's what the board has to decide to do. I think for the construction manager's benefit, we just have to tell them to move out, right?
Yes. We need to move this forward
Yeah.
if we have any hopes of meeting the state's deadline.
Yeah, I mean, the window will close fast. I mean, your feet aren't held to the fire right now. You probably got another 2 weeks to kick the ball around,
Yep.
but that your time will run out at about that.
Kicking that ball isn't going to do us,
It won't, but I mean, instead of being pressured right now in this selectmen's meeting,
Yeah.
you would have time to go to one more.
Yeah, we have to
And
crunch
discuss it.
numbers. Yep.
but the only thing we'd be deciding is where those funds would be coming from, not whether or not to move forward.
Oh, no,
with
you
the
gotta do
work.
it. No, you gotta do it, but you can do stuff amongst yourselves on where the funding and other things may.
Yeah, I'm just saying
They
that
come
for
from.
tonight, we can say move forward, and then we can discuss, okay, this is where we are with funds, this is where we're gonna pull out the others at another meeting.
Yeah.
Everyone in agreement with that?
I don't think we need a motion, just as long as everybody's good with that. And that number you gave us is soup to nuts, right? We're not,
Yeah, soup to
not-
nuts.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, a bulk of it is two subcontractors.
right.
I would like us to have a motion just because of the size of the amount,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
to reflect that all, where the board stands, each member.
I mean, the differential between a constructed pump house and a pre-constructed pump house, I mean, even if it's $5,000, we would be looking at that as a savings potential, but not.
And what was
So
that
I
total
would
amount
move
again?
that we
Total
authorize
number
the,
for this,
Yeah,
226.
Yeah, I would,
And I'm just, for conversation reasons, I can break it down to the exact penny cents and, but you're around 226.
it's
Might be
just our
225,
motions
750.
usually include an up to or not to exceed kind of amount,
Yeah,
so.
that's
226.
exactly what I moved the expenditure of 226,000 max for the completion of the sprinkler system at the new fire station.
and I would second with only a friendly amendment, per the contracted procedure. Other than, because essentially we're making a motion here just to,
We're making a motion to move things along. Am I terribly thrilled making a motion when I don't have a sheet in front of me that says X number of dollars for this, this, and this?
Right, but we're authorizing the construction manager to move forward with the sprinkler system.
Exactly,
At a cost not to exceed.
yeah.
yeah, I think where I'm going, I don't have a problem with that part of the motion. Where I'm going with that is we've never made a motion for any other point in this project, so I don't.
No, but this is a
However-
unique situation.
This is a
because
unique
it's-
situation, but I want people to understand, other than us, outlining what this remediation is going to be, everything else is per the normal.
Right. However, this is outside the original proposed scope of work. Therefore, a motion is necessary.
Debatable, but, yeah.
Okay.
All right, you don't want to change your motion, I'm fine with it, seconding.
Did you
Yeah.
want to
I don't-
accept the
there's-
friendly
there's n-
amendment?
It was too convoluted for me to know what was the friendly amendment and what was the
So what
editorial.
was the friendly amendment?
Just to say, per the normal contracted procedure with the construction manager.
Per the normal contracted procedure, I would agree with.
Okay, so friendly amendment accepted. Any more discussion?
When will the estimate for the separate pump house be ready?
I'm at the mercy of 2 subcontractors, so I could have it tomorrow afternoon, I might not get it till next Friday.
All being equal, is there any savings down the road from one versus the other? Let's say if they were the same price than the other.
Not really.
Not that, okay.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And again, I have to say this every time, I want people to understand this. We're not tearing apart something we've already built.
Nope.
This is
Well,
on the
well,
sup-
to be completely clear,
Yeah,
inside the building, there's one retrofit that will take place.
Yeah.
Inside the mechanical room right now, there's a pump that charges the system inside the administrative area.
yeah,
That will be removed because that pump will no longer be necessary.
yeah.
2 tanks that are up in the mezzanine will be removed because that's the wet system as we were directed to put in.
Yeah.
So that will come out. Shy of that? No.
Yeah, so where I'm going with this is work on the supply end.
That's
of
all
the-
it is.
It's work on the supply end. The building is the building. It
Mm-hmm.
was built, and we're not all of a sudden tearing up part of the building we just built. We're just being required by the fire marshal to, I would say, beef up what was there, because the flow has to be greater.
If I could just finish the closing of this motion? I got the all in favor, but all opposed.
Yeah, everybody was in.
I did not hear
Yeah.
4 other ayes, so I just wanted to make sure there were no opposed. Okay, so it's a unanimous vote. Thank you. I just needed to ensure that that's what we had. Thank you, Mike. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Can we return the pump we're not going to be using?
You know, Jim, I'll break down their bill, but I think they're crediting us that pump.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'll analyze that to make sure that there is some, if there isn't, there's some kind of a contra for that equipment.
I just, because we're on TV, somebody's going to
Sure,
be
sure.
asking
Yeah, no, I
it.
get it. I get it. No, it's a question well worth asking.
So, Ziggy, are you here to speak to anything in particular, or?
The chief of the fire department there?
Excellent, so you're here for that?
Yes.
Okay, that is our next item on the list. Would you like to come up? So this is the fire department engine 2 repair quote. Do you have the new quote
Nope.
or the revised quote? We have the original.
27,000 and,
We have that,
Yep.
and we have an email, a copy of an email stating that it was reduced, but we don't see where those reductions are.
the chief's in the hospital, so that's why I'm here. But there was a list of things, and I swear he sent it out. Did you get anything, Nancy? Diane?
Yep.
We did say we could live without a couple of things.
That's what the email says, is that you've managed to bring it down, but we have no idea.
We have nothing to show us what was removed and what is left.
So you didn't get anything, Diane? He didn't?
Basically, what he told them is that they can get the repairs down to $10,360 from the original $17,000. But what they're asking for is they want to know what are they
Right.
taking out of the
No,
quote,
he-
and we didn't get that.
He didn't forward any
Just-
paperwork to me to
that's
bring
correct.
tonight.
So he was just my assumption is that he's just going under, he's just saying there are certain things they can take out.
But we don't know what.
We're not sure which ones,
You know,
right?
on a normal repair, 5,000 or 6,000, when you're sending a truck out, that's almost normal because things need service, and they're expensive on a fire truck. He was just concerned that he wanted you to approve a major repair like that. But like I say, I do not have a current figure.
Right, and he has to come to us because he still says he doesn't have the money in his budget, not with 3 more trucks that need repairs. And this is why it needs to come to us, and as a board, we need to also decide, whether or not that full amount is something that we're prepared to spend right away, or whether or not, we think it can go down further, or, whatever.
Okay. No.
No.
Like I say, it was an emergency thing, he went to the hospital. And we worked on this, God, 2 weeks ago, and I thought somebody would have had the,
Do you have a copy of
No,
what was
I-
crossed off or anything?
I got a call from, the emergency room this afternoon, just show up if they have any questions about the repair, just because it was a large, that was his thing. He just wanted your approval to spend that much money.
So.
Normally
I
5 or
guess-
6, he would have just done it.
Yeah, I guess my thing is, if, let's say it's 10 grand, for argument's sake, and there's apparently not 10 grand in the repair budget, is that correct?
Well, right now there is, but I
There
mean,
is,
then
but
he
he
has a
says he's
few other
got 3 more
trucks
trucks
that have to
needing
go.
services and repairs, so he
Right, so-
won't have them.
So if we were to say tonight, go ahead and just do it, then what's our ideas for the 3 other
You'd
trucks?
have to cut back on other line items, new gear and repairs on something else. Maybe we take a car out of service.
That's what I'm thinking. So and I know you just got a call to come here, but, so is the chief saying that his priority then is this, which one is it?
Engine 2.
Engine 2 is the priority?
Yeah.
So if we give him the go tonight on engine 2, is that indeed the priority, and that we'll figure out as we come to it with the other vehicles, or are we?
And like I say, he realizes that there's, places that he just wouldn't buy any more protective equipment.
Yeah, right,
Usually you
right.
like to keep ahead of it.
Right.
New guy would have to rent some if we send somebody to the academy instead of buying it, so.
Yeah, and I realize in a lot of ways this is unpredictable stuff. It's like if somebody's at home right now watching this on TV saying, oh, why didn't they put this in the budget? Well, you don't always know that this stuff is gonna,
25-year-old truck, the springs just
Yeah.
crack.
What are the other 3 trucks?
One of them be the rescue truck, one of them is the new Tank 4 and Tank 5.
So if you spend 10,000 on this and your new tanker needs repairs and you have no money left, so the new truck sits out?
yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I'd say postpone it.
You did mention to me that the engine 2 is still at the Greenwood place?
No, we got it back, they didn't want it, they'd charge you for parking it.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's back
all right.
sitting at Station 2 in the
Yeah.
junction.
Okay, never mind.
One of the comments that was made was about the fact that because this is the vehicle that's at the junction station, the failure to maintain it could affect,
Essentially shuts down the station?
exactly,
Yeah.
and therefore eliminates a lot of insurance premiums.
But could another engine go to that station? in its
We
place?
only have 2. So we're not going to take the better of the 2 engines and
So, I don't know, I hate to kick the can up the road, but can we wait 2 weeks on it?
It's up to the,
Is the truck
Up
in,
to the-
is the truck in service or out of
oh
service?
no, it's out of service.
It's out of
The
service,
brakes
so-
are cracked, the drums, the springs are cracked, so there's some serious issues.
Yeah.
Just because of the weight of the truck, just it's sitting there for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
it finally, settles and breaks things.
So that would mean that the Newton Junction does not have a service, a truck in service there. Is that a correct statement?
Right.
So you're at that point?
Yep.
okay, so we're at that point now.
Correct.
So
There may not, but it's not affecting insurance immediately because the vehicle is out of service.
I am not talking insurance, I'm just telling you don't have coverage down there.
Right, it just means they would have to travel, 2 miles?
Yeah, another extra 2 miles, but that truck would get into the groves a lot quicker, down Willow Road.
So I kind of, my only concern is if we say 10 grand tonight, what happens?
The only other thing that I can think of is the capital reserve money that we're trying to save for a new truck. That can be for refurbishment as well as purchase.
Well, that's what I was thinking
So if
too,
you
but I
need-
just,
Yeah.
How much is in there?
But you're, huh?
How much is in there?
Didn't it pass? No, it didn't pass
pass.
this year,
Pass,
but
nope.
it passed last year, so it's 50-something thousand in there.
I don't think there's that much.
Yes, and we haven't drawn anything out of it. We raised that money last year, we haven't spent anything.
Now, when you say the rescue vehicle, you're not referring to the ambulance?
No, no, the rescue truck.
Okay.
Do you know how much is in the reserve?
No, I don't.
Which reserve?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Yeah.
and again, the chief's got a medical issue,
Oh,
that's
no,
why
no,
he's
Nancy,
not
you don't
here,
have to
but,
go look now.
but 2 weeks,
Oh,
I-
get a book there.
I think
I-
we wait 2 weeks, because we have questions that are going to affect the way we all vote, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let her look real quick, see what's in the reserve. They're not getting a new truck
Yeah,
anyway.
since the truck is
I'll go spend it.
back in town,
Yes.
then there's no real emergency to give the approval on the expenditure without getting the questions answered
Can I
first.
just wait to see what's in the reserve? Just looking it up.
I would still like to see questions answered as far as what the actual amount is, what was removed from the invoices, et
Well, whatever
cetera.
was removed,
$52,600.
52,000. So whatever was removed is not going to affect the operation of the
Yeah.
truck. Therefore, whatever remained is going to make the truck be put back in service and operational. Know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's where we're gonna go. If we approve the 10 grand tonight, and then we have maintenance issues with these other trucks, that's where we're gonna go. It's not like we have another
But-
account hidden somewhere.
But he
Yeah.
has the money for the other trucks in his budget,
That's what I'm wondering. Is
where
that
he
clear?
spent this 10,000. If you take that out of the budget, he might not have enough for the other three. So I would like to make a motion to use 10,000 out of the capital reserve fund on the refurbished part to get engine 2 fixed. You have the exact quote, is it 10,000, whatever?
I think, or is it- we got a date
Not to
to it.
exceed 11 then, because it's probably 10 something.
Yeah, it was
That way,
definitely
he
10
gets that truck
something.
back in service. 52's not gonna buy a new vehicle, so, and we didn't
Yeah,
get the
that's true.
50,000 this year. So let's just use the 10 capital 11 to get this truck repaired back in service. And then we'll have a talk with the fire chief at the next meeting.
I'll second.
Moving forward.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Oh,
Aye.
sorry.
What?
sorry, I just
one
need to
sec.
read one more thing.
Oh.
The only, I would, because there's a number 110 that says time and materials, I think that's still something that had to be done on that quote.
Well, that's why I went between 10, capital 11. And then he could take the, if it's out over 11, he could take it out of his budget,
Okay,
but we
all right, I
saved him
just-
11,000.
Right, I just want to make sure that you included that in there.
Okay.
So what was it, not to exceed 11?
Not to exceed 11. Because
Okay.
I know it's 10 something
Right,
to come out of capital reserve.
okay.
And then we'll have a discussion with him when he feels better and comes back on future.
Sounds good.
And how is engine 2 looking? Once the repairs are done, did anyone give a guesstimated lifespan? Will it be okay for a
Well,
while, hopefully?
Yeah, you'll be okay for a while, but as you can see, there was another $6,000 worth of things that they recommended to keep it, up. Yeah, but some of them are shiny, extra lights to work at night when there's a fire, things like that. Repair the seats, big guy jumping in and out. The seats were gonna have to be reupholstered or replaced.
Okay, but it
With-
has
if
life
there were
left.
things like that.
There's a little
Or
bit
or
of
we
a
can use some
difference.
duct tape.
There's a little bit of a difference when you go to a garage and you say, please go through the vehicle and tell me everything that's wrong with it, and then going to a
need.
garage and saying, I need you to fix this, or I'm having this problem, please fix it. So what we got the first time was a laundry list. They went through the vehicle and found everything that they thought should be done to it. Not everything.
Well, we gave them a list of everything wanted, so it was a combination of both. Them recommending some things and us saying, hey, how about the upholstery? How about putting the horn button back on? They pop off. That's really happened there, so.
So, okay, I'm going to call for the vote again, since we were called back into a discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Aye. And only because,
That'd be nay, wouldn't it?
yeah, I'm nay, I'm opposed. Because I wanted the more information.
Right.
I wanted
Yep.
the 2 weeks. So that's the only reason why I'm saying that.
Okay.
Well, put it this way, our vote tonight doesn't mean the chief still doesn't have to supply us with the,
Oh, yeah, right, I'll
With
tell
that
him if he's
list.
out, sure.
All right,
All
thank you
set?
very much. We
Okay, anything
appreciate
else?
it.
Was there?
There was one other thing. There was
SCBA.
SB, yes, scuba fitting equipment, TSI 8048 proposal. I'm assuming this is just a straightforward invoice that you'd like us to sign?
And which one?
This is, it looks like it's a state bid.
Oh, okay,
and
sure, that's,
It's a joint purchase,
yeah,
correct?
Plastow, Kingston, East Kingston, and us, or
Yes,
it'd be
for some portable protection equipment of some sort.
all the firefighters, when they go in the fire, they wear a face mask. It's supposed to be fitted every year. This machine tests, make sure the firefighters have a good seal and they're certified to go in a building.
What I see, which I really like to see, is the unit price on this machine is $13,150, but the state bid price is $3,037.50. Well, technically $4,037.50, it's just they gave us a trade-in for $1,000.
Yeah, Kingston has possession of the machine. They got it through a grant once, so we have to update it. The equipment's changed.
Which is what knocked it down for $1,000.
Right.
And this is going to be a machine that's shared between
Yes.
the regional departments,
Yes.
correct? I love to see communities working together, so I do like to express thank you to...
that's not the state price, that's what happens when you divide that price by the 4
for
towns.
us? Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
this is
our
our
share.
portion, our share.
Right.
All right, and, but I would still like to thank Kingston, Plastow, and East Kingston for joining us in this bid
Okay.
to make
Yes.
it more
You can keep it because you have to sign it.
easier to swallow, let's put it that way. So would someone like to make a motion to sign?
I'll move that we sign the agreement with the TSI 8048 proposal.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous vote.
All right.
Thank you, Ziggy. That is everything that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to now go back to the top, since we've,
We haven't done the minutes yet.
exactly, that's the top.
So I would move to approve the non-public and public meeting minutes dated March 19th, 2019.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa, we didn't make the announcement about coming out of non-public either.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did. Jim
Jim
did.
did it.
He did say?
Yep, he did do it right after the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Okay, so that takes care of non-public, public, none opposed, right?
No.
Unanimous. Next is our reorganization of the board. This is,
Okay.
So I'll start us off. I would like to move to nominate Selectman Lisa Gagner as chairman for the coming year,
Second.
the year we're in.
Second with discussion.
Second.
Yeah.
So I think we should have a policy on it moving forward, because it's always been the person that's going out the final year would get chairman and vice chair, and we've steered away from that.
Because now we have 2 people going out every year. Well, not every year, but
Right.
most years.
2 out of the 3 years, there are 2 people going
You
out.
actually brought this up last year. I think we kicked it around for a while, but
And it
I would
got
be
nowhere.
opposed to a policy myself, but I don't see how we could
Well,
manage
it becomes a
it.
favoritism then after that if you don't have a policy, some kind of policy in writing.
Well, this is why we do nominations. We have a nomination, and the majority of the board decides who they want to represent them as chair. This is how all boards work. It's just, when it was a 3-member board, it was very easy for them to say, you know what, you're up for election, you can be chair. The next one who was in line to go up for re-election the following year would be the vice chair. So it was very easy to allow each chair, each selectman to have a year as chairman when they were up for election. But in reality, what we should be doing is, who do we want to actually do the work that's required of being a chairman? And not necessarily just one person every year, you know, but it should not be, oh, you've got tenure, or you've been the selectman for the most years, so you're the chair. That shouldn't be the reason. We tend to give preference to those that are coming up for reelection.
And sometimes there's selectmen that don't want to be chair at all.
Exactly.
I mean, the one difference in the argument that I will make is, I think that it is every selectman, every board member's responsibility at some point to assume the chair. Simply because it is that much more work involved, and every person should experience the rigors of the chairmanship.
And I, on the other hand, feel that those who do not want to take on those additional responsibilities should not feel like they're pressured into doing so either.
So, you know, I'll put it right out there. I'm nominating Lisa because she has indicated to me in past conversations that she was interested. She also has been the vice chair for 2 years in a row, which to me is plenty of time to be a vice chair without, you know, elevating to the chair. So that's why I did it. Larry, are you interested in being the chair this year? No? Okay. I just thought I'd ask. You know, I've been the chair before. Jim's been the chair before. I'm sure Kate, at some time in your tenure, you'll want to be chair. And I think it's one of those things you have to lobby for, you know, not with lawn signs, but you have to speak up and say, you know, this is something I'm interested
In the past 2
in.
years, and I've been seeing this trend, and if nobody else admits it, fine, is the chair is, I don't want to say things that are beyond the rest of the board, but seems to be the whole board in making some decisions and doing this and doing that, attending meetings and this and that. And it just needs to just come back down to, hey, we're the whole board, but yes, you're the chair, we respect you as a chair, but you know, you make decisions for the whole board, or you do
The
this, you do
chair
that.
cannot make decisions for the whole
I'm
board.
just saying, and again, I don't want to get into the debate, but it has happened in the past 2 years.
So I'll just say,
That's all I'm saying.
I'll just say this, I totally agree with what you're saying, except for the fact, I mean, you don't have to give us examples here, but
Right, I'm not
it
gonna.
it shouldn't happen that way, and if we need to kind of just say that out loud, I don't have a problem with that. I was chair 2 years ago. I hope it didn't happen when I was chair. You know, I know that I've heard of it before my time on the board where the chair thinks they are the super selectman or whatever.
Well,
and
and that
it's
that
just
is-
not, it's not the case, and I know that sometimes they may hold themselves out as such, and people might, you know, do things for them. It shouldn't happen that way. I think we can all nod our heads in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
attended
Yeah.
training with Lisa.
Yeah.
She's very aware of
Yeah.
how it works, and
Yeah.
I have total confidence that
Yeah.
will not happen
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
I mean, I've sat on
as chair.
boards where, yes, the chair assumes the potentate role. And that is not what we want here.
Yep.
And I don't think we would have that with Lisa.
Yeah, I think the only thing we've made it a policy is the chair can, on their own, decide to close the town hall for a snowstorm. I think that's the only thing we have given them like unilateral control over, and that's simply because when I was chair, I didn't want to have to call 4 other people. I just wanted to,
Okay, I'm all set.
yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous.
So we need a vice chair, so I'd move for Jim Doggett to be the vice chair.
Second. Any discussion? Nice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are you in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous.
My thing is, with all the other, we usually talk about the ex officios and the liaisons and stuff like that, and I think, except for what our outgoing selectmen had, I don't think we need to change anything unless somebody does think,
I thought we weren't having a liaison this year.
I think
It
we
created
should.
such a problem.
I think it created problems in one respect. I think it helps in the other respects. But again, it goes back to what you were saying, is you're not a super, you're a communications channel. You're not a super decision maker. So-
Right, the liaisons gather information
It doesn't work out, I'm telling you.
and then brings it to the board as
Call for a vote,
opposed to...
because I'm going to vote no against that.
So if you vote no, which is fine, you're the liaison for the building department, so you wouldn't want to take that?
No.
Okay, so we'll have to find, we need,
Now, was that the only place you were liaison for, Larry? Okay,
so Bob was outgoing, he had the transfer station, and he
Right.
had the construction of the
I
fire.
I was just going to
station.
say, I believe from this point out, anything further to do with the fire station needs to come before the entire board.
I don't think there's much left.
Well, I mean, tonight we...
Wouldn't be a big time crunch. if we
Yeah,
did,
there's a lot of money that was
Yeah.
discussed this evening.
Yeah,
If anything comes up, it's going to be here and it's going to be in public.
so we have a new selectman, or select board member.
Yep.
Okay.
I think she'd be an excellent candidate for the transfer station post.
I would agree.
You've spent a lot of time there, right?
Campaign there
Right, you
so
know.
often.
You know people.
So just so our new selectman is aware, without any objection, I will continue as my ex officio to the Conservation Commission and my liaison to the Cable Committee.
I will continue as the ex officio on the planning board and the liaison to the fire department.
And what do I have the Rec
Recre-
Commission as an ex officio, I'm the Police Department liaison, and I have, Diane, what's the other, I always forget the name of the, it's not the trustees, but it's the
Stewardship?
Stewardship
Oh,
Committee.
I
So,
was trying to,
The one easement.
Oh, and I do have another one I can give to Kate, which doesn't involve much, but she might like it, and that's liaison to the library trustees. So if you're willing, liaison to library trustees and liaison to the transfer station?
Okay. I'd like to hear, I know in the book about select people of different towns and different things, but I know there's an ex officio for planning and one other officially. We can't sit on more than one other
Well,
board.
this is why we were
I need
talking
to
about
know-
ex officios
how it works here.
versus liaisons. See, library trustees, it's just liaison. You're sharing the information back and forth. You're not a member, you're not sitting with them on their meetings or anything like that. It's just, you're a point person for the library
Okay.
trustees to go to bring things to the board.
Okay.
Okay, and then if there's anything that falls under non-public, then you could potentially be directed by the board to do something as their liaison with the library trustees.
Okay.
The same thing with the transfer station, it's just a department.
And how many ex officios do we have?
We have rec, we have
Okay.
conservation, and we have planning board.
Right.
Okay.
How about the Joint Loss Management Committee?
The what?
It's meeting tomorrow night.
What is it?
Joint loss management,
Safety Committee.
yeah,
Oh, just,
AKA
and
safety
those are
committee.
liaison, not ex officio.
Now, is that considered an ex officio? or-
No, because I
No,
think we
'cause
just,
it's-
we go and we sit
Oh,
there.
okay.
It's not an RSA covered, that's the only time it's in an ex officio is if it's
Covered by
stated
it.
under RSA.
So let me make a motion this way, because this might, I know Larry said he's going to vote against the liaison, so I'm going to separate the ex officios from the liaisons, because the ex officios, like Lisa just said, are RSAs. So I'd like to move to keep the ex officios the same as last year.
Second.
Okay.
All right,
You
who
got
was our?
3 seconds on
You
that.
did.
So I think Larry was
I think
first.
Larry was first on that. All right, so any more discussion about ex officios? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
So I guess I would move to keep the liaisons the same, except we'd like to add Kate Michaels for transfer station and library, and Lisa Gagne for building department.
I'm good with
You
that.
can thank her later.
I'll second that.
All right, and we got a second by Jim. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay,
Opposed?
opposed.
All right, one opposed, Larry. So motion carries, and that takes care of our reorganization. Thank you and welcome aboard, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is reviewing of the MS 232 appropriations as voted. That can be found on the share drive. It's the Department of Revenue report of what we did in March for,
I'm sorry, I had to do a timeout here.
sure.
We have a former selectman who's watching on TV tonight, and he just reminded me via text, there was a highway department liaison, and it was him.
Oh, that's right.
So we need a highway department liaison. So I love technology, by the way. This is great. It's kind of like having one of those call-in
I'm
shows.
thinking that's another great one for Kate, because it's not going to be a lot.
3?
Well, because none of them are going to require a lot like the ex officios do.
Okay, what do they require?
Just if you can give them a call or stop
Oh,
in,
stop
check
in and find out
in.
what's
Yeah,
going
it's
on.
not like going to a meeting for an hour, 2 hours, or anything like that. And just being reachable by phone.
So here's the way, because Larry makes some good points with this, right? Here's the best way it works, is the information flows towards us. So if you're the police chief, for example, he might have a question to ask, and he can't text 5 of us or call 5 of us all at the same time. So he calls me, he runs it by me, I give him some advice, but the information is still flowing to the board. It shouldn't be a case of, oh, chief, do this, because I don't have the power to do that. But it's more of the one phone number to text or call. And Lisa's right, there really aren't meetings to go to, so.
Madam
And the
Chair.
other thing is if, say the chief needs something to come before the board and he can't make it, for example,
Right.
then the liaison has been informed by the chief and is prepared to speak to it on behalf
Of the chief.
of whoever they're liaison for, exactly.
Just I want to be used so I can best serve the town.
Yep.
I may not be as familiar with the highway department as of yet. It's my first day on the job, so.
But again,
If
it's
you think
just,
I can
if
handle it,
we
I'll
have
do it.
anything that we
If I
want to
can't,
go,
I'll let you know.
if the board has something that they want shared with the highway department, for
Right.
example, then we may say, hey, liaison, go share this with the highway department.
I think Larry
If
wants to do it, though.
the highway department, has something they want to bring to the board, but they can't make it to a meeting, or it's pressing, or whatever the case, they'll bring it to the liaison. The liaison can then see that it flows to the rest of the board.
You will not have to operate a plow truck, I can assure you of that, so.
And as I stated before, the most importantly of all is liaisons have no authority for department or for the board. They are still just one member, even though they are a liaison. So they cannot make decisions.
Okay.
All right, so do you accept the highway department as well? Yes.
Yes, and if it is something that I'm like, hey, I need more experience with this, I'll absolutely let you know.
Yep,
It
but
doesn't sound like that will be an issue.
you shouldn't,
Okay,
because I know nothing about I know little about the building department, but I can be a liaison.
okay.
I can pass information back
Can
and
do
forth.
that, too.
Yeah.
Right. I may not be able to pave a road, though, but we'll see.
Did you make a motion? I forget, I'm having amnesia.
No, because
Email me all my liaisons.
I thought you did.
Oh,
Keep
okay.
track.
So that's true, I was beginning to. So I would move to make Kate Michaels the liaison to the highway department.
Second.
All right, Jim was first on that second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now let's go to the MS 232 appropriations as voted. As I was saying, this is a report for the Department of Revenue. It tells them what was actually approved by the voters to be spent for the 2019 fiscal year. And hopefully everyone has had a chance to review the numbers to ensure that they match what we're expecting them to match.
Madam Chair, I move that we sign the MS 232.
Do I have a second on it?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You forgot one thing under E, the SFC engineering invoice sprinkler system.
Oh, that wasn't part of the, I saw sprinkler, sprinkler, sprinkler. I thought it was all of the same thing. All right, so we do have an invoice that will need to be voted to be signed.
Correct.
SPE,
Not in this
the
folder.
SPFC?
Yeah.
That's not on the fire station rescue?
No, it's right there in your, it's S as in Sam, F as in Frank, C as in Charlie,
So,
voice.
so I think this is like leftover from, so I would say that this needs to be processed per
There it is.
the contract.
There's no signature line on it?
No, you just need to make the motion so Kim knows who
Oh, to pay it.
to pay it and where you're going to pay it out of,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay, so this is an invoice totaling,
So I would move in regards to SFC Engineering invoice number 02779, that should be processed per the bond fire station
Second.
project.
Second.
Larry got it.
yep, that was Larry this time. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, before we go on to G, I just have one more thing that I want to make sure we get a motion on, because it's not on our others list. It's just a welfare manifest, I don't know. Should have been done in non-public and wasn't, if you could do that one. And you're not going to find it on there.
You want to do it right now?
Yes, please, so it doesn't get forgotten.
Yep. So I have,
Not in public.
It's just, no people, no nothing, just,
No, if you make the motion in public, the document's public.
oh,
yeah, let's
Never mind.
hold off. on
all right.
that.
We may,
All for us to go into non-public at the end of the meeting.
okay, good. We'll slip into non-public at the end of the
Yep.
meeting to take care of that. All right, that'll work. Next item, proposed changes to the non-public session procedures. For those who have attended the Right to Know workshops recently, we have been provided with a template that could be utilized, that covers each of the areas that non-public sessions, and this is good to go over for Kate as well. I know she just attended the Right to Know. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I brought out is that we're really good, especially with specifying our reasons for going in. We're very good with that, making our motions to go in, our roll calls, et cetera. But on the back of the page, the second half of it, it's the leaving of the non-public that I wanted to bring in. Some of it it's changed. I think it was last year or the year before, the motion to leave non-public was done in public instead of non-public like it was done before, so that was a change. But another thing that I wanted to point out is the motion made to seal the minutes. Now, we seal our minutes because we haven't actually seen them yet. And if we don't, that makes them available, which makes perfect sense. But what I would like to suggest to the board, and to see if I can get agreement, is that we make it add a new step to our agenda, so that after we approve our non-public and public meeting minutes, that we also have aligned to potentially unseal the minutes that we just approved. Because there are only 3 reasons to actually seal minutes, which are not the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reasons to go into one. So we got lots of reasons we can go in,
Yeah.
but not a lot of reasons for us to go out. We are under no obligation to unseal minutes during any particular time frame. However, I think it would just keep things a lot cleaner, get the sealed folder a little smaller, if we were to make it a practice to, move to unseal those that don't need to be sealed on the following meeting.
The logic is kind of backwards to me because, we typically say we're sealing until we decide it is wise and prudent
Right.
to unseal them. It's sort of like the reason has to exist before we even approach whether we want to unseal it. So for the most part, I don't have an issue with this. I just think the logic is kind of weird because it's going to be there every week, but 99.9% of the time, we probably won't do it.
Not
so.
necessarily. Like I said, there are only 3 particular reasons to keep minutes sealed. Affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board,
That's going to be a
Okay.
big one.
render a proposed action ineffective, or pertains to preparation or carrying out of actions regarding terrorism.
Right.
And as far as that first one, that all depends on what's actually included
I hope
in the
it's
minutes.
never the third one, by the way.
Right?
I actually kind of like the idea of putting that on as the next item. And it's going to be one of those quick things. They always suggest, I know the New Hampshire Municipal Association has always suggested, every 6 months, the board should sit down and read through the back minutes. Yeah, right.
Or the new selectman who comes on board gets assigned the task of going through the last
no,
1 year's worth of...
Actually, because the minutes are sealed, she cannot access anything prior to tonight.
Actually, according to them, yes, she can.
No.
Because the previous selectman can't. But as a current board member, yes.
Okay, I'll chat with Stephen Buckley about that.
Yep, because he
No,
was
but
there.
It would be good to
If
keep
you-
up to date where we just had some system
In fact,
every,
Stephen Buckley is the one who said that, by the way.
Oh, okay, because he keeps changing his mind. He's a lawyer, what can we say?
or whatever we agree upon every,
However, if we do it on a meeting-by-meeting basis,
oh, I see, okay.
it's real easy to say, oh, yes, we read those minutes last week.
We're approving them the same week that we're
Exactly.
looking
Oh, I see, so it doesn't get filled up behind you.
However, they're going to have to be changed in the way that they are voted in the first place and presented. Each item from the non-public agenda is going to have its separate sheet
Right.
so that we can release, because not today, but in the past, you could go into non-public and have 3 different topics.
Oh, right.
Right,
And you
so...
only unseal part of them.
So
not all of them.
subsection...
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Subsection A has
Wow, okay.
its non-public minutes, subsection B has its, if you have
Right.
multiple sections under a particular
Right.
non-public session, because it is a session and not a meeting.
I mean,
Right, so the minutes are going to have to be in individual subject sets so that we can seal all of the non-public minutes at once. But quite often, just from experience, there has not been a meeting that we haven't had one that hasn't met at least criteria number 1 of that. So there's still going to be a lot of sealed minutes.
That's it, yeah. If they fit the criteria, then they stay sealed.
Excuse me?
Yeah, if they fit the criteria, then they have to stay sealed.
Yeah, I mean, the minutes from this evening,
It just
Will not
ensures
be
that
unsealed.
we're making sure that the sealing remains effective because it falls under 1, 2, or 3, and you don't know that until you actually
Read-
see
read-
the-
read.
read the minutes.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, depending on how the minutes are read, some of it may not even fall under the one that you think it might.
Right.
And if we start doing it this way, we can get a better feel for whether or not we're actually sealing more, or whether or not we're able to unseal more than we thought we would. I think it's a good exercise for us to do, and it shows open communication.
Transparency.
Yeah, transparency to the constituents, that we're actually looking at them and ensuring that anything that doesn't need to be sealed gets unsealed. They hear us seal, they never hear us unseal.
Do we do like a monthly review, other than, you like, Jim, you like the idea of doing it that next meeting?
Well, at the
Sometimes
next
it's not
meeting,
ready, right?
when we approve the minutes,
It's easy to do it
we
then.
we have just read them.
Okay.
Exactly.
We can always do a postponement if there's some confusion.
My thing is still, the only time I've ever unsealed minutes on this board, in my 5 years on the board, was when a resident had come in and said they wanted something, and we as a board, we looked at it, we said, yeah, there's no issues there, and we unsealed that, I think it was 3 sentences, and we gave it to the resident. So that, to me, is probably the only time I'm going to want to unseal minutes, is when there's a specific request that makes sense. I think this board does a good job of policing itself as to when we use 91A to seal minutes. We don't just do it for the sake of, despite what some people may believe, we don't just do it because we want to have an hour by ourselves from 6 to 7. We do it for a reason. So that's just my viewpoint. I don't have a problem with what you're proposing, but my viewpoint is I don't want to get into the habit of unsealing just to kind of reduce the backlog.
Well,
It's really more a case of, if those minutes don't, once they're written and approved, they don't fall within one of these categories, they need to be unsealed, because they're sealed inappropriately.
So if they need to be unsealed, then just adopt it then, if you're following the RSA. Should be no discussion.
But we're not unsealing them, is my point.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So put that forward, we have to approve it if that's the RSA saying, we have no choice.
Right, and that's why I wanted to see if I could get the board to agree, let's make this an agenda
Well, we
item right
have to-
after
yeah.
approving.
And MHA was saying that a lot of people don't get around to it. They recommend and they understand that they would every review and start to consider unsealing things. But that, people are understaffed, it takes time.
Right.
So if we start now, it's not a
Start
bad
now,
idea.
moving forward, right?
Yeah, then we don't get backlogged, and I think it's,
I would go along with it as long as nobody proposes that we go back over the past 5 years.
I would agree
Oh,
with you.
God, no. Nobody has the time for that. I'm
Okay.
thinking of a moving
And
forward.
if a
Yes.
citizen
Kinda thing.
requests something, yeah, then, right, that would easily be addressed.
Since this is procedural, I don't think we need a vote, just consensus of the board, right? No, don't need a motion for this? We don't do motions
Yeah,
for
I mean,
agenda
I don't
items.
think so, but I'm opposed, but, it's not going to keep me up at night if we do that
All right,
procedure.
and how do you feel about it, Larry?
That's fine. We'll follow
Right.
whatever
I
the,
think going forward, it's
Okay,
good
and-
whatever the
practice.
state
And
wants.
you're-
Obviously.
All right, so the majority of the board is in favor of adding this to the agenda item. So Diane, if you could just
I'm still not sure what you're adding, but anyways.
review unsealing the non-public minutes
from the previous
from
meeting.
the previous meeting. So right under the Selectmen's non-public and public meeting minutes where we do the approval,
Yep, okay,
the next item would be whether or not we unseal it at that time,
okay.
the non-public.
Hopefully, no one's going to make any motions that say, I motion not to unseal. The
Yeah.
the motion, it should
Unseal.
basically be the chair saying, anybody have a reason to?
By the way, Diane, that could just say, where this says approval of minutes, that could say unsealing of minutes.
So you're going to do, so like this one here was for last March 19.
Right.
So you would just, you would adopt the non-public and public minutes as dated,
Yep.
but you would not seal them.
We
Oh, no,
may
no,
or
no,
may
no.
not.
Oh,
No, we'd have to make a motion to say,
We make the motion to seal at the time we come out of the non-public.
Right,
Which means we made that motion on March 19th.
right. Okay.
So now we've approved and adopted the meeting minutes, the non-public minutes for March 19th. And then the next step would be to determine whether or not we want to unseal the March 19th non-public
Okay,
minutes.
all right.
Or a portion of.
Or
Right.
portion of,
Or,
exactly.
or I would assume, if it's written the way Jim says to write it, unsealing of minutes, that would be the portion, if you knew for some reason the February 10th minutes.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be just for 319.
Correct.
It could be any minutes. So that's why Jim says it pretty well, I think, is just you put a bullet point, unsealing of minutes, and that's it.
Okay.
Yep,
With
and
no
if we
dates.
have any, if any selectmen have any minutes they want to unseal, that's the time that they would make that motion.
Okay, good, we're good.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or discuss about non-public session procedures?
I just want to make sure we're still doing the minutes way we normally do it. We're not doing them separately on all those sheets, right?
No, we're not handwriting.
Okay.
This template, this is a guide.
Okay.
That's all it is. And it's really good just to remind us of
That you're
what
following all the
reasons
steps,
we
yeah.
can keep them sealed.
Okay.
The only thing you might want to do is, under the heading for each new subject, next to it should be 91A, 91A3, whatever, the specific like you have here.
Exactly.
Right
So
on the
within the
heading,
minutes
yeah.
themselves, as we discuss each section, so we go in under C, so that section of the minutes should start with that header.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when we go into a discussion of under A,
Yeah.
then we put the A and then what that discussion,
Okay.
and- which will make unsealing easier, which is what Jim was
Well,
suggesting.
as Attorney Buckley explained, we are supposed to, for each and every item on the non-public agenda, we are supposed to come in and out of non-public.
no,
Technically,
go back,
yeah.
check the
Yeah.
folder.
I mean, each item on that agenda is supposed to have a non-public session for it. So, meeting with Joe Smith, that's an item, it has to be cited RSA with, RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, subsections A through F. One of those has to be posted. The next one is meet with Becky Davis. Might have a different thing on the end. We're supposed to go in and out with a roll call for each and every item on that agenda.
And we
Yeah.
but we just keep them all in the same document. We're not doing 3 separate documents.
Right, but your minutes are supposed to show that
Right.
there was a vote to
Yeah.
go in and
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah, we've been doing
Yeah.
that, I think.
Yeah, so that if we unseal sections 1, 3,
Right.
4, 5, 6,
Yep. Okay. Okay.
Okay, if I can step back to the Porter for just a moment. Diane, the motion, was that for chair to sign or for all to sign? Because we only have one signature line.
What motion are we talking
And
about?
this,
The fire station portable
That was
for
the chair.
I
3,037?
think it was just one.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the motion reflected exactly what's occurring. I couldn't remember if we
I
had,
believe I said the chair.
okay. I just noticed the one signature and one.
That's why I had noticed that, that's why
Okay,
I had.
good. Like, yeah, let's just make sure. All right, so our next item, Memorial Day Grand Marshal.
So I'm going to put the board on the spot here, and I know we're discussing a few minutes ago about unilateral decisions, but hopefully the board will vote in favor of what I'm going to propose. But we always have a grand marshal. In the past, we have had posthumous grand marshals, and I think there's a no-brainer this year for our grand marshal, and I'd like the support of the board to nominate Robert Donovan Sr.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And I pretty much already figured we'd do that anyway, so that was my,
So you mentioned that you would bring it before the board, and now you've got,
exactly, yes. But if you guys had said no, I don't know. But,
all right.
Thank you.
Other business?
Madam Chair, I would move to sign the vendor manifest dated 4/2/2019 in the amount of $83,448.04.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair, I would move to sign the new fire rescue station vendor manifest dated 4/2/2019 in the amount of $3,817.08.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would move to sign payroll manifest for pay period 3/17 through 3/30/2019 with a pay date of 4/4/2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have appointments. Why don't we let Kate do a couple of those too?
Okay.
Do I know how?
Yeah, leave a
Make a,
couple for the
I'll
new
do the
guy.
first one. Make a motion to appoint Molly Wilson as a member of the Compensation Commission for a 3-year term to expire April 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Welcome back, Molly. All in favor?
Aye.
I get it. I make a motion
That's
for Tricia McCarthy to be a member of the, continue to be a member of the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term to expire April 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I make a motion that Rick Falconer is a member of the Recreation Commission for a 3-year term to expire April 30th, 2022.
Second?
Second.
A friendly amendment that Rick Falconer is appointed and not is a member?
Okay, it's just,
Well,
it's
as
right
a-
here, appointed.
Is appointed as a member.
Okay, is appointed as a member of the Recreation Committee.
I'm still good with that second.
Just a clarification, we
He's an
recently
alternate.
voted that he be an alternate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now they're making him a full member. So just want to make that
Oh,
clear
okay.
so we can do away with
We've
the
had some
alternate.
turnover, so if you're at home watching this on TV right now and you'd love to be a member of the Rec Commission, please let us know.
Cool. All right, any discussion? Other than that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that all of those? All right, then I don't have...
Madam Chair, I
yeah,
move we
one
go
more
into
thing.
non-public under
Wait,
91.
there's
Oh,
one
one more
more.
announcement before we go?
Yes.
Start, should I start?
Robert
Doesn't matter what
Watson,
order?
Lady
Oh, you,
Okay, I will...
You sign by
Okay,
your name. You always take your name.
sorry, I didn't.
Not
No, it
quite
doesn't
done
go by
yet.
order.
I'd like to at least announce that firefighter EMT Robert Watson has completed his 1-year probation, and he is now a permanent firefighter EMT.
Congratulations.
Congratulations,
You
Robert
have the,
Watson. It's great.
The welfare.
942?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I would move we go into
Wait, hold that
non-public
number.
under 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, subsection A.
Do I have a
Oh, no,
second
this
for
is-
non-public?
Second?
All right, second by Matt. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
That's at what
Aye.
what time?
At 9:03 PM.
I'll just sign this
So,
though.
Yeah,
for
I
those
didn't
at
see it.
home, the meeting
You were the
is
first one. Look at that.
Yep, so the meeting's
Sign
over.
them all,
We'll
then
come
pass
out
it
of
down.